Hello and welcome to Hearing Your Future, the Coding Your Future podcast. My name is Duncan and I'm on a mission to help you design, build, test and code your future in computing. In this podcast, we'll talk to current and former students of computer science to find out more about their journey from student to professional. What's their story? How are they coding their future? What obstacles have they faced and how did they overcome them? Finally, we ask our guests what advice would they offer their former selves and fellow students, and where are they headed next. My guest today is Jonathan Cowling. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science with industrial experience in 2020, and this episode was first recorded in 2022. Thank you, Jonathan, for coming and speaking today, on your day off, no less. So it's good to catch up with you, and I wanted to reflect on, I know it's a couple of years since you graduated from the university, but I think you've got an interesting story to tell about your journey from student to professional. So let's start at the beginning. What's your name and where'd you come from?
So I'm Jonathan. Born and raised in Manchester, so didn't have to come very far today. At the moment I'm in Salford, just a little bit cheaper, can you say?
So you're local, and what was it that made you choose to study computer science? Can you remember? Was it a particular moment, or was it something over time? Did you study it as an A level or as a GCSE, or?
So it wasn't. There wasn't like one moment really where I went like computer science is the thing for me. It's something I've always kind of done, and then there was this sort of going into university. It was almost this transition from it being a thing I've done on the side as more of a hobby, say over-engineering Excel spreadsheets, that sort of thing, to, okay, now let's actually do it seriously. That was really the difference there. And so choosing to do computer science was just kind of this natural thing. It just made sense. It was the thing I've always been doing so much of anyway.
Right. So I guess, did you do computing as an A-level or a GCSE, or was it something?
So at college I studied engineering. I went to a university technical college.
Right. Is that immediate, not the one in Salford?
So the one I went to was in Oldham. It's now closed down. Right. I think the students they were targeting wasn't quite what they were after, because university technical colleges target like years 10 and 11, and then in college 12 and 13. And it just didn't quite work for them with like the years 10 and 11, and it made it very difficult for them to run the college.
Right. Okay. So you arrived in Manchester. I think you graduated 2020. So you arrived in 2016. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
It's like ancient history now, going back that far. But you arrived in your first year. I think you were saying earlier in your first year you managed to get a summer internship after your first year, which is pretty good going. So how did you go about getting that summer internship?
So the summer internship, I was at a meetup and was talking to the, I suppose, CEO of a startup, and sort of hit it off from there. I liked the kind of thing that they were doing. They were all about helping people find mentors and helping people sort of get into the industry, especially people from like disadvantaged backgrounds, and was all about helping with that sort of stuff. And with that being the goal for My2B, the company, it also turned out they were more than willing to take a risk on a student that didn't have loads of experience to help them get that experience.
And I think, was this something where they didn't really have, it was a sort of ad hoc thing, so it was like, is it sort of classic, perhaps a hidden job where it wasn't, this company are looking for this student who knows about JavaScript. It was you bumped into somebody at a JavaScript meetup, is that right? And then you got talking, and it turns out, oh, actually, yeah, we'd be interested in taking on a summer student. So there's kind of, I think people often say there's lots of hidden jobs out there that don't always get advertised. Does it sound like a little bit like that? Is it potentially something that, had you looked for it online, you would never have found it because it probably wasn't advertised?
Yeah, exactly that. Both my placement year and my summer internship were those hidden jobs. I don't even think the people that were offered me the job had actually plans to do so in the first place. And it's for better or worse, one of the things you might hear a lot is that it's who you know, not what you know, and it's just being in the right place at the right time and making those connections and sort of being personable and being friendly. It matters a heck of a lot.
Yeah, and just sort of being open to sort of bumping into people, I guess, because you never know. I mean, some people have social networks that they can plug into already, but quite often the people who can influence your career the most are actually people on the edge of your network that perhaps you don't know so well or you just bumped into somewhere. So so that was in first. You came back for your second year, and did you want to do a year-long placement?
Yes.
From the beginning, so you kind of knew that was what you wanted to do. But now you've already got this summer internship under your belt. So what sort of place? What can you describe the sort of journey in second year? There's obviously lots of work to do in the second year, but what your journey was from beginning of the year to then getting this placement at it was MoneySupermarket, was that right?
It was MoneySupermarket, yeah. So there was a few different places I sort of applied to. In the end, choosing MoneySupermarket, despite it not being one of the places I originally intended to apply to. One of the places was an agency, and in the end, it just seems the
like a digital agency, a sort of digital marketing. There's quite a lot of digital marketing type companies in Manchester that do that kind of.
Yeah.
Or do you mean an agency as in like a recruitment agency?
It was they sort of hired, I suppose, not quite contractors, but were sort of in the market, just building like digital products for
right.
people.
Yeah.
And I chose in the end to not to go with them and go with MoneySupermarket, just because of the connections that I made with some of the people there, and sort of knowing a little bit more like what MoneySupermarket was about before joining them, which I think was definitely the best idea then, because if I remember correctly, a few months after, there was a news article going around, and this company that I was looking to apply to that I didn't wasn't doing so well. Not too long afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of the startup. I mean, I guess with your summer internship was a kind of startup. There's always a bit of a risk, isn't it? I mean, it's exciting because you it's 5 people or whatever it is, and you get to learn lots. But the sort of downside of that is sometimes it can all go a bit pear-shaped, and you end up with no job. So MoneySupermarket's quite a big brand. I guess it's a very professional and nice big team, and you kind of get an idea of what the culture is like from meeting people before you or during the interview. Yeah. So what was your role at MoneySupermarket? At
MoneySupermarket, I was an Android developer.
Right.
So at the time there was like this big sort of branding transition. So there was a couple of apps that they were working on at the same time. I think some of the work was contracted out to like a separate company. But with MoneySupermarket, I was one of the in-house staff for the year, helping them sort of maintain and bring new features to the current app that they sort of had front and center. The team I was on, the mobile app team, I think was around 40 people or something like that.
Right.
But as far as like Android developers go, there was maybe like half a dozen of us that knew Android. I think another like half a dozen that were focused more on iOS.
Right. Yeah. So I guess you must have learned a hell of a lot about engineering, doing live products that, it's really important that it works well. You've tested all your code before it gets deployed to production, all that kind of stuff. So apart from the technical stuff, what are the sort of main sort of things that you felt like you learned from doing your placement at MoneySupermarket?
That's an interesting one. So as far as the stuff I'd learned, there's so much that you can get from a particular technology or thing you're working with that can be transferred. So I mean, I was working on Android development at the time. I haven't touched Android development since then.
Okay.
But all of the sort of the principles, the process, the way of working, that's all stuff that can absolutely just be lifted and shifted and all applied somewhere else. So choosing to learn a particular framework or piece of technology, even if that piece of technology ceases to exist, it's not wasted time, because what tends to happen in the industry is everyone likes to reinvent the wheel. It just looks slightly different every time. And so if you've learned a technology, years in the past, you'll find there'll be a cycle, and things will move a little bit further away from that way of working, then it'll cycle all the way back around, and you'll have seen this thing before, and great, you'll be able to hit the ground running with it because it's stuff you've already seen.
Yeah, good. So can you describe? Did you face any obstacles in finding? What was the? I mean, it sounds like you're doing really well because you were sort of exploiting your network and putting feelers out there to try and find and meet people. But did you face any barriers that were challenging in second year when you were looking for jobs?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So as far as difficulties getting a placement, I think I faced the same sort of thing that a lot of people have, where at first I was applying to a lot of places, a load of rejections, and that happens. It doesn't matter how good you are, you're applying to places, you'll end up getting rejected by most of them. It happens. There's a lot of people going for the same jobs, and in the end, getting a job that wasn't even advertised in the first place by going there, going to a meetup, not particularly looking for a job, but deciding I want to get some free pizza because this meetup is offering free pizza. Student, what can I say?
Works every time.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't even think, if I'm totally honest, I don't even think I was actually paying that much attention to the talk. I was more just, I'm going to sit here on my laptop, and I don't know if it was university work or a side project or whatever at the time. I'm just going to do some work on my own and just get the pizza, and just if there's anything interesting in the talk, maybe I'll look up and pay a little bit of attention. But yeah, in the end, it was much easier talking to people.
Did you go on your own, or did you go with somebody? Because I mean that's something that can be quite daunting for students. If you're going to a meetup, it can be sometimes a bit intimidating, because you might be the least experienced person there, even though you've been studying for a while and you've done lots of stuff on your own. It's kind of sometimes a bit intimidating. Although having said that, I think those kinds of events tend to be full of quite friendly, personable people, so it is quite easy just to walk up to strangers and go, "Hi, who are you? What are you doing?" kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I've lost my train of thought now. So that's what you were doing, I guess. Yeah.
And if you're a student, you are the least experienced in the room. There's no question about that. I can still go to these events and there be people that have sort of been in the industry for decades and have so much experience, and they're like, what? trying to follow some of the stuff that they're talking about, some of the stuff that they've seen, and that's all experience that can be learned from, and that's great. It is a little bit intimidating at first, and the great thing about these meetups is you can go for a little while. If it's something that's a little bit uncomfortable, it's okay to leave. It's okay not to be there for the full thing. And it will be scary. And some of them will be boring. Not all of them will be great. And that's fine. It happens. Turn up to one of the ones with pizza, and at least, you don't leave with nothing. There was...
and, even if you haven't understood the talk, you could still talk to people afterwards, and the network of, the professional network that you build can be valuable that way.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, even if it's something that you're not hugely interested in, there's still so many people there that are sort of that are doing things much more similar to you, maybe things that are much more interesting to you. And so if you end up at a talk that you think is about databases and it turns out to be about data and business analysis, and you realize I've really ended up in the wrong GDPR meetup, then at least you can get your pizza, have a couple of interesting conversations, and just disappear into the background. Yeah. It's fine.
Good. Okay. So that was your placement year at Money Supermarket. You came back into your final year. Can you remember? I know it's 2 years ago now, but a lot's happened in 2 years. Yeah. Can you remember what you did? What did you do for your final year project?
Yeah. So my final year project was kind of an extension in a way of some of the technologies that I'd seen at MoneySupermarket and not really dug my teeth into that much. I was looking at Kubernetes, which is a way of orchestrating a bunch of different applications running simultaneously in much more of an enterprise fashion, right. Compared to, say, running a bunch of Java application on say a Raspberry Pi or something like that. And the idea was to sort of apply a lot of the stuff I got from industry and a lot of stuff that I'd learned from software engineering in the second year, and sort of evaluating those technologies, looking at the thing that I could build with those sorts of technologies, and build a white label sort of e-commerce platform.
Right.
That was the goal of it.
I suppose the nice thing about a final year project is you don't have to worry too much about the customer, because there isn't, it gets read by an academic, but you can sort of just dig into stuff because it's interesting, and let's see where this goes, let's see what I can do with this kind of thing.
It's a safe way to take risks.
And
absolutely.
it's not always possible to do that in a commercial environment, because there's usually a customer or somebody that's like, can you stop working on that now and do this thing over here instead? So that's graduation 2 years ago, and I think you went. So where you're working now is where you worked immediately after you started university. So
yes,
it's Infinity Works. Can you tell us the stuff that you can talk about? So Infinity Works who are Infinity Works?
Yeah, so Infinity Works are one of a few companies now owned by Accenture. They do software consulting. So rather than explain sort of what software consulting is, maybe I'll go through sort of what I do there, which would be similar to, I suppose, if someone joined and the kind of stuff in it that they'd be expecting. So I'm basically attached to different companies, and they'll have problems or challenges that they're looking to overcome.
These are clients of Infinity Works.
Yes, exactly. So with a team of people from Infinity Works usually. Sometimes it'll be a team that's like just Infinity Works staff, and it'll be the whole team sort of sits with the client. Other times they sort of take people sort of more as individuals, or much smaller teams, maybe like one or two people will go and sit with the client and help them develop a product, improve and tweak the ways they're working to ultimately to end up making more money, to end up creating stuff more efficiently, to getting rid of roadblocks, that sort of thing.
you're working with people quite a lot. So I mean, there's
yeah.
a common misconception with computer science is that you'll just be sat there in a darkened room writing code on your own, which it can happen if you want it to, but I think it's more common the other way around, where you're working with people, and especially in your role, where you've got lots of different clients rather than just one client or one manager. You've got that variety, I guess, of working with different organisations.
Absolutely, and the coding aspect, and I think this is the case of a lot of jobs. The coding aspect is the easy bit of it. Right. It might not feel like it, as you go into university and you're learning to code, but eventually you get experience with it, and it's a very easy thing to pick up a different language or to transfer a lot of the skills you've already got. But what's usually a lot harder is interacting with clients, with customers, if you're within a company as opposed to working with clients, just interacting with the wider business.
Yeah.
The challenges that we so often face are with people, not with computers.
Yeah. So it's kind of those social skills, I guess, are really important. I mean, we don't really put much emphasis on the social stuff in a computer science degree, but it is obviously important, like you say. Right, so you've been there for 2 years now.
Yes.
You're based in Manchester. I think Infinity Works actually host. There's a group called, is it Her Data Manchester? They host meetups in. You're in the centre. Are you in Circle Square or?
Yes, we are in Circle Square. They recently hosted, or at least sponsored, I'm not exactly sure, but they were definitely part of that Her Plus Data. There's also a bunch of other meetups that they do. I know things have sort of over the past couple of years with COVID, things have changed a little bit with what's running and what's not. One of the big events that I turned up to quite a lot, especially as a student, was the DevOps Battle Royale. I think
DevOps what? Sorry?
The DevOps Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. Okay.
Yes. So
sort of challenge, I guess, or.
So it was comparing a bunch of different technologies, and
right.
Because there's such a wide variety of experience that the different consultants have at InfiniWorks, it's quite easy to sort of go, hey, does anyone know AWS? Does anyone know Azure? How about Google Cloud Platform? And to go, okay, if we compare and contrast these different technologies, I mean, how do they all stack up to each other? What can they do well? What do they not? And that's ultimately what a lot of people in industry are quite interested in, because if they're looking at picking up one of these technologies, cloud providers, that sort of thing, they don't have the luxury of loads and loads of time to really thoroughly dig into all of them. And that's why things like the DevOps Battle Royale really help, because you see a bunch of these technologies from people that have used them for quite a while and have so much experience, and then go, it's great for this particular thing, but also if you've got another set of needs, maybe this technology isn't for you.
Yeah, good, okay. Good. All right. So that's Infinity Works. So the next bit, this is called Minority Report. So I ask students if you're a member of a minority group. Are there any minority groups that you're a member of that you're happy to discuss? I mean, you mentioned one earlier.
Yes. So it's a weird one for me. So I've got Crohn's. I've had Crohn's since I was 10. At university, I think because university is a relatively stressful thing, because it's a lot of work at the end of the day. My Crohn's was especially difficult around then, and
I guess exam time or any stressful period can make things difficult.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with like a lot of sort of chronic illnesses. Stress makes everything worse.
Yeah.
Even if you're fully healthy, stress is bad. Stress makes things worse. So if you're not 100% healthy, which I'm not, it exacerbates symptoms of things like Crohn's, and I'm sure there'll be students that are in similar situations that have got Crohn's chronic illnesses, and stress is rough. This came to a head after university. I had a flare up with my Crohn's, which, long story short, I ended up in hospital, and now I've got an ostomy bag,
Right.
Which hopefully is something that will be sort of reversed soonish. I mean, I know the NHS are struggling at the moment with getting through to seeing people.
So, I mean, is there anything that you... Well, so the two parts to this then is what could universities do to make... could have done? I mean, I guess we would have done some things to make your life easier, but then also what can employers do to make workplaces more welcoming to members of... Well, anyone with a chronic disease. I mean, I think you could probably include mental health in that a little bit as well. Anyone suffering from, anxiety or depression. What can employers and universities do to make workplaces and campuses more welcoming to people with these sorts of issues?
Yeah. So the one place that I can deal with my Crohn's the best, because I've got everything there, I've got everything set up, is at home. Right. If I've got a problem with my Crohn's, with my ostomy bag, that sort of thing, that's where I want to be. And this is one of the big changes that have happened since COVID. Is working from home is now so much more of a thing. So if I have a problem, I can deal with it. Like, people at work won't even realize that I've got an ostomy bag. I mean, I'm open to talking about it, and that's also, if you're comfortable, like, very important, because companies have to go through like reasonable, any reasonable measures to make sure that you can work and everything's okay. So if you're comfortable talking about those things with the company, you should absolutely do so. But as far as what companies should do, it's let people work from home, and the same sort of thing goes university. Let people study a lot more from home, and there's not been a choice really with COVID. Is it now sort of has to all work from home.
It's supercharged that kind of that pattern, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So what else have we got here then? So to finish up then, we've got one tune, one podcast, and one film. So just to add a little personal touch to it. So can you tell us about one tune that's important to you? We'll add it to our Coders playlist. It might be something that helps you relax, or it might be something that got you through your study, or helps you switch off, anything like that.
For a tune, I'm gonna go for Misery Business by Paramore.
Right.
So my music tastes haven't changed much since like the middle of high school. I've no problem admitting that. And songs like that sort of meant a lot as everyone is going through quite difficult times, and as will be no surprise to most people that are getting involved in computer science. Like I was bullied at school. That happens, and I think university students, probably more than most, will have experienced that as well. And so it was music like that really helped me sort of get through high school and stuff that I still listen to now because I enjoy it.
Yeah, good. Okay, we'll add that to the playlist. How do you spell Paramore? Is that P-A? Is it as in French para? P-A-R-A? I'll Google it anyway, to know what to Google for. So that's one tune. Then the other thing is you may or may not listen to podcasts. So if you do listen to a podcast, is there one that you recommend our listeners? Or if not a podcast, then an audio book will do.
So I'm not a huge podcast person, but I have listened, I think, quite a bit to Syntax FM.
Right.
So there's a couple of guys. Wes Boss and Scott Tilinsky, they talk mainly about like sort of front end development, their sort of preferred technologies, answering people's questions, that sort of thing. And it's all interesting stuff to hear about, and you can get some inspiration. Oh, I'm going to play about with Svelte because I've heard it on this podcast, or whenever other technology pops up. And so I think that's a really good one to get.
Right. Okay. Syntax FM.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is one film. So it might be something old or something that's out now. One film that you recommend our listeners go and watch.
I'm gonna go for Ready Player One. Watching it in the cinema was brilliant. And is, for me, seeing a lot of, and this may hurt for some people, but for me, a lot of like the history of sort of pop culture and technology is I found really interesting, and if that's sort of the thing that you find fascinating as well, Ready Player One, brilliant. And even if it's not something in particular you're interested in, it's just a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay. Ready Player One. And then, right, so that's the 1 2 1 podcast, one film. The last bit, this is a looking back now, is to say, it sounds like you graduated during the pandemic, didn't you? So you graduated in 2020, so you kind of caught by the tail end of that a little bit. But if you could go back to first year, what would you tell your former self in order to get the most out of their time at university, either yourself or perhaps fellow students? I think you did a pretty good job while you were here, and you made the most of lots of opportunities, going and getting placements and internships. But what would you tell your former self now that you're older and wiser?
Interesting. So with the sort of stress and effort that like university takes, I think it's really important to be looking after your mental health, and that goes for looking for units to take, for making sure that your workload is balanced. And I think at the University of Manchester you do a great job in sort of saying these units in particular are going to be very, very difficult, very challenging. You're going to want to try and balance them out. So you definitely shouldn't feel bad at going, I've heard from students maybe that this unit in particular is a little bit easier. This is going to help make things sane for me at the university.
Yeah.
So, first year I did computer science and maths, and ended up dropping the maths because I love it.
Right.
But as it was described to me at the time, and I absolutely agree, it's 60% computer science, 60% maths. It's a lot of work, and making sure that what you've got on your plate is something you can handle, and sort of at the end of the day something you're enjoying is really important.
Yeah, and that's that. Looking back now, sort of, I think. I see a lot of students working really hard, which is good.
Yes.
But I think it sometimes can be a little bit unhealthy when, I've done it myself as well. You just work too hard, you just burn out, and then things go wrong, and it's counterproductive in the longer term anyway.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you can make opportunities, you will find opportunities. That can happen even if you struggle at university or it's not quite working. But there isn't another you. And that's a really important thing to get. And you really need to do whatever it takes, whatever you can to look after yourself physically and mentally. It's so important.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. Thanks. Well, thanks for joining us, Jonathan. Thanks for coming and sharing your story today. It's good to hear about how you got to where you are now, and look forward to hearing about what you get up to in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Hearing Your Future, the Coding Your Future podcast. You can find out more about this episode and all the other episodes, including full transcripts and show notes, at cdyf.me. That's Charlie Delta Yankee Foxtrot .Mike Echo. You can also find us on all the major podcast platforms. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you found something useful to help you start coding your future today.